All right, we're back at it on the SuccessFlow podcast, and we have another incredible guest today. I've known this guy for, I think, going on 7-8 years now, Phil, and I'm excited for the opportunity to introduce you to Mr. Jordan Adler, who is, the guy, he wears his sunglasses at night. He's been all over the world. He's met some incredible people and has some awesome stories, specifically rags to riches type of stories that I think our listeners are really going to get a lot of value from. So, Jordan, I know you're a super busy guy, and I really appreciate you hopping on with us today. So thanks again. And how's everything going?
Everything's good. It's I'm excited to be here with you guys, and looking forward to our chat here over the next few minutes. And, you mentioned traveling. I'm actually leaving in 2 weeks for Sofia, Bulgaria.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. What are you doing out there? What's the plan?
It's a mastermind that I've participated in on and off over the last 20 years. And they moved things from the United States to Eastern Europe a couple of years ago. So this is my second time going to Eastern Europe to speak at an event with about 1,000 people.
That's incredible. I want to know all about this. I'm sure there's some like non-confidentiality or confidentiality clauses or
no, nothing confidential at all.
All right. So is everyone do you have translators? Is everyone speaking English?
Yeah. There's actually 6 translation booths. There'll be
amazing.
Probably 50% of the crowd will be from the UK. So they'll all speak English, but the other half of the crowd, most of them don't speak any English at all. They're from 10 different countries, and we'll be doing simultaneous translation into 6 languages. So
Wow. Well, okay. So before we really jump in, Phil and I are part of a mastermind. Junto, our good friend Nate Dominguez and Ed Drummond are part of it as well. We get the value of a mastermind, but why are you traveling across the world to speak at mastermind groups? Like, what's the value? It's actually,
they call it the network marketing mastermind. They call it that, but it's really not a mastermind as much as it is a training program for network marketers. So these are people that represent many different network marketing companies that are all looking to grow their businesses, and they're looking to hear from people that have successfully done it. And so I'm one of the speakers. I get it's a 4-day event, and I get 35 minutes each day. So
that's amazing.
But it's more of it's not a paid speaking event. It's more of a fun excuse to go to Europe. And we always have a great time. I've got a lot of friends there, and Sofia, Bulgaria is probably not a place that I would put on my calendar to go to if I wasn't going to speak. But
that's what makes it the best. Give you an excuse to see a part of the world that you normally wouldn't make the priority list.
Yeah, they were living under communism in 1989. So half the population that's still alive lived in communism. The other half are the younger people that didn't, and they're at odds with each other to some extent because a lot of the older people want communism back, and the younger people love the freedom. So I guess under communism, they felt some people felt a sense of knowing what to expect. So it's just a different mindset. But it's interesting talking with the older versus somebody who's in their 60s versus somebody who's in their 20s. They've got a completely different view of life.
To see that pendulum go back and forth.
Yeah. And then also you see a lot of, there's not a lot of money in Bulgaria or in the Eastern Bloc countries. There's just not a lot of, they don't have a lot of capital resources to make improvements and grow. And so even though they are considered capitalist countries now, they really don't have the same kind of capitalism that we have in the United States.
Absolutely. It's kind of a great segue to talk through, your business and network marketing and the opportunity there, which I'm excited because I have a little experience and know how those conversations can go, and know the opportunity that's there really for anyone, but it doesn't come without a lot of hard work. So We'd love to get this conversation started off. You have an amazing origin story by being a self-made entrepreneur, and we love to kick these off to get an idea of those early days and where Jordan comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago in a lower middle income neighborhood. In fact, they closed my high school because of gang violence a few years ago. It was a 70-year-old high school and our neighborhood was very safe and very family friendly when I grew up there, but things changed over the years. And But the home I grew up in was a 1,200 square foot home. My mom and dad were married till they passed away. They were married for 55 years. I grew up with 2 sisters, and my parents saved their entire lives for us each to go to college for 1 year, and then we had to figure out how to pay for the rest. But we were required to go. So my dad paid. I was a resident advisor and a night clerk, and I worked doing that during college, and I got a degree in landscape architecture, not because I was interested in landscape architecture, but because I met some cool people in the courtyard playing Frisbee around a fire that, and they were cool. And I'm like, what do you do? And they say, we're in landscape architecture. And I say, I want to do that. So that's how I chose my profession. That's how we choose our profession when we're in our 20s. Yeah. And so I got my degree, paid for my college, didn't take out any loans, got back to Park Forest, Illinois. And then I had one friend who was a high school ex-girlfriend who lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was in Chicago at the time, and she said there was a lot of building going on. And so I had $250 that I got from birthday gifts, a guitar and a suitcase. And I traveled on one of my very first airplane flights to Arizona one way, and shacked up with her for a week, bought a $200 motorcycle out of my $250, ran out of money and was trying to figure out how to pay my bills and started applying for jobs. So for the next 10 years, I was in the job world, but I was also, for whatever reason, I don't know where it came from because it wasn't in our family, but I was wired as an entrepreneur. And so I was reading books, the few books I could get my hands on back then about entrepreneurship and owning your own business. And over the next 10 years, I tried different businesses, and I got involved with 11 different network marketing companies in 10 years. And most of them were companies where I actually either met somebody or I answered an ad that was in the newspaper at the time. And everything I did, I would quit after 2 or 3 months. I never made a penny. 10 years, 11 different companies. Also started some traditional type businesses on a shoestring. Never made a penny in anything. 10 years, 11 companies. Joined my 12th company in 1992. I was 34 years old. I was living in an enclosed garage in Tempe, Arizona, right, not far from Gamage, across Mill Avenue. And my rent was $200 a month. I had $36,000 in credit card debt on 22 credit cards. Had a Jeep that had been broken down in the street for 2 years. I had a job with an airline at the time. I'd left the landscape architecture and joined an airline, and the airline had just filed bankruptcy and cut my pay from $28,000 a year to $14,000 a year. So at 34, I was making $14,000 a year, living in a garage. The Jeep was broken down, and I had $36,000 in credit card debt. And I joined my 12th network marketing company. And they say when opportunity and preparation come together, that's where things start to happen. Mm-hmm. And I had been listening to audios, climbing up and down Squaw Peak, with my yellow Sony Walkman, listening to cassette tapes and going to events and I did a lot of, I had a lot of failure, like a lot of hard knocks, school of hard knocks, they say. So, and then in my 12th company, I finally cracked the code. I started figuring out how to set up an appointment, how to give a simple presentation, how to follow up more, how to build your contact manager, whatever that was. And in those days, it was the Rolodex. And I started having nominal success, but enough to start getting some little checks. After a year, I was making $180 a month. I left my job when I hit $1,500 a month, which was way too soon. And I came very close to filing bankruptcy. But by my 33rd month, I was making over $30,000 a month. And I was still living in the garage. I hadn't moved out because I was too busy. I was running around the country. Your overhead low. I was running around the country, building my business. And, I had a great life, but I just didn't have really a home, other than the garage, But eventually I went and got some nice cars and upgraded and got a beautiful little home in the forest and started traveling. Continued to travel.
Well, yeah, you're traveling all over the country. When you come back home, you just need a place to sleep, get some rest, and you're back out on the road again. So what did it matter if you got a 5,000 square foot house or a 200 square foot little room, right?
Yeah, and back then, things have changed quite a bit in our profession. Back then, 90% of the population was 100% convinced that network marketing was a scam.
Yeah.
10% believed it was a true business model. And if you didn't have a physical address, a business address, you were a scam. That's how people looked at you. So if you had a business address, back then people put their business address on their cards. And if you didn't put your business address on your card, you were considered a scam back then. So you put your business address on your card. And if it happens to be your home, people would drive by and see it's your home. And then you were in a scam.
That was due diligence back then.
Yeah, that was due diligence back then. Well, today, 90% of the population knows that network marketing is legitimate. 10% still think it's a scam. So things have changed quite a bit. And it's much cooler to not have an address on your business card, not have an office. Yeah. It's all right to have an office for many businesses, but you know, the age of the solopreneur, the boutique entrepreneur that wants to work from home or travel and work from the beach or work from the mountains or work from the city, you know.
It's blowing up. I mean,
the nomadic entrepreneur.
We got some big influencers and content creators that are all about it too. Cody Sanchez is buying businesses. You have Justin Welsh, who's Saturday Solopreneur. He talks about that a lot. And with technology and what COVID did for all of us being remote, it makes it so much easier to build a business from, you know, the comfort of your home.
Yeah, that's a miracle. It's like the ability to use your technology. You can get almost everything for free now. And back in the early days, I mean, we had something called VoiceTel, which was a networked voicemail. And it got to the point where I was paying $3,000 a month just to be able to use network voicemail, which, today, you know, we have the tools of network voicemail, but it's all free and it's all through our phone and our computer. I mean, I'm talking before emails.
Yeah.
You know, and, or right around the time that emails were launching. But the tools that we have today allow you to work from anywhere in the world. And even with, like today, you know, you got with Starlink, you got internet's everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just got back from a hike at Havasupai last weekend. We did 3 nights down there. We're in the middle of the Grand Canyon. And one of the guys that was down there with us, it's week 1 NFL Sunday. And he's like big time NFL guy. He brought his Starlink and solar panels and hooked it up from the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It's like, it's wild.
That's serious. Yeah. But that's one of the things I really love about the business that I do is that I can work from anywhere. So I don't really have, you know, I have I have actually 3 residences that I kind of rotate between. And then I spend 10 days on the road, you know, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's great. I can open up my computer.
Your primary residence is Las Vegas. And then you got a home up in Jerome.
I have a home in Jerome that I spend about 10 days a month on the Vegas Strip at the Waldorf. And I've had a place here for 13 years. And then I've had a place for 23 years in Jerome, Arizona, which is an old mining town that was a ghost town for many years.
Wine country.
It wasn't wine country when I moved there. You know, do you know Maynard? You know Tool?
Oh yeah, from Tool. Yeah,
he's one of my neighbors. It's funny because he's got somewhat of a cult following. You know, Maynard does.
He is one of the most interesting humans when you look at his resume between jiu-jitsu and good. There's another good podcast on Joe Rogan with him, but he's got a jiu-jitsu studio up there. He's got a couple of wine bars, a store. And we're the same height and we are both bald. And because people come to Jerome looking for him because he is an iconic cult type rock star. He goes to Europe, he'll have 30,000 people at his concerts. But because we're about the same age, I'm the same height, bald. I get stopped all the time by tourists thinking I'm him. That is so funny.
All the time. Happened just last week, actually.
He's a real renaissance man.
I can't produce like he can.
Well, we're going to talk about that. That's for sure. And I love your kickoff story because it's kind of become the mascot of the podcast, the concept of the bamboo shoot. And we talk about how that shoot, you have to water and water and water and you see no results from it. Your story is exactly that. Yeah. And then in that 6 year, it just shoots up. You're 33,000 a month, comes out of nowhere, and people say, "Oh, that's overnight. That's network marketing. He just hit a seam." Right? No, you had been watering that with the Walkman, with the books, and put in that effort. And you just, like you said originally, most people quit before they can hit that seam. So I guess how did you navigate that mindset after each time? Was it just incredible
people say,
self-belief?
how come you didn't quit? And the truth is, I quit over and over again. Like I would be involved with a company for 2 or 3 months and everybody would be negative that I talked to and I would quit. And then 3 to 6 months later, I joined another company. And I kept doing that, kept repeating that pattern for 10 years. And then I finally figured out that the top leaders in any business, the top leaders don't quit. They're resourceful. They figure things out. They're problem solvers. And I just made a conscious decision that no matter how bad things got in my 12th company for me, as long as the company was still around, I was going to keep going. And it was very difficult. It's very easy when you're not in it. Like when you're looking at it from the outside, looking in, it's real easy to understand, don't quit on a bad day. But when you're actually in a bad day and it's really bad, something happens that would knock anybody else out of the business. The people that make the big bucks are the ones that are able to navigate those seas. And that's when you grow. That's when you transcend whatever issues you're dealing with and build to the next level. And it's very difficult. And that's why very few people do it. Very difficult. So like I had situations that came up in my 12th company early on that would have knocked 1,000 people out of the business. One of them was I finally started getting very little bit of traction. I had these guys come into my business that were in Peabody, Massachusetts. And at this point, I had zero money in my bank account. I did have airline pass benefits because I worked for an airline, but I couldn't afford a hotel room. And these two guys in Massachusetts joined the business and they were going to put a meeting together for me and I was going to fly across the country. I used my pass benefits and the night I landed, it was a blizzard, like a bad blizzard, super cold, wind was blowing sideways, snow coming down like crazy. And I had a rental car and I got in it. I was in my 30s and I drove 2.5 hours to their home, which is a 20-minute drive if there's not a snowstorm. I mean, there's trucks in the ditches. This is before cell phones. I get to their front door and the lights are out in their home. And they canceled the meeting I was on the airplane. They canceled the meeting because of the blizzard. And I came all the way across the country and made it to the house and was standing on their doorstep thinking to myself, and they all quit. But after that night, they all quit. There was a little group and they all quit. Yeah. I ended up getting a Motel 6, which I really couldn't afford. That's part of that $36,000 in credit card debt. And I flew back the next day and I had a choice at that point. That was one of a few things that happened that should have knocked me out of the business, which would have knocked anyone else out. I had a choice and I decided to stick with it. And I ended up meeting in the company. I ended up meeting people that were making 5 and 6 figures a month. And I got to know them. And I started hanging around with them. They say that your income will rise to the level of the people that you hang around with. Yeah. And today, the ones that are still alive, there's a few that are still alive because they were a little older. I'm very, very close friends with, and they've all become multimillionaires. And some of them, not that long before I met them, were broke like I was.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Got to race together.
So the company, the one that you've been talking about that you stuck with is Promptings. It used to be a different company.
Yeah, okay. It was a company called...
So take us back because it was, now you're in Send Out Cars, Promptings. This is something different that you're talking about. And then you moved into, where I met you, the business, profession that you're in now. So what was that company like? What was the product and what were you?
Yeah, so I didn't write my book Beach Money until I didn't want to write it until I could prove to myself that I wasn't a one-hit wonder. So sure. I was in my 12th company, which was a company called Excel. It was a 16-year-old billion-dollar plus telecom network marketing company. And I joined that company when they had about 30,000 distributors back in the early 90s. And that was the company and I built it from, do you remember Coffee Plantation on Mill Avenue?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's now Five Guys.
Yep.
My AmeriQuest Airlines business office was there. And so I would go down to Coffee Plantation and meet with people. That's where I built my business, was at that Coffee Plantation. And the spaghetti company, which you guys probably don't remember, was down the street on Mill Avenue from Five Guys. So I used to do my appointments at Starbucks, or not Starbucks, at Coffee Plantation. And over the next 13 years with that company, I personally recruited 129 people. And 129 people, there's 144 months in 13 years. And I put in 129 people, which was less than one a month. But from those 129, this was a telecom network marketing company. So we were recruiting agents that went out and got customers. And we became, out of hundreds of telecoms, we became the number 4 telecom, just behind Sprint, MCI, and AT&T. And wow. And we did that through independent distributors that all went out and got a few customers. And so in 144 months, 13 years, I recruited 129 people. That was after I figured it out, cracked the code, one a month. I was given about 12 presentations a month, knowing that 11 of them would say no. I was looking for one a month for a couple of years. Signed up 19 people after 2 years. And my 16th was a lady named Jackie Ulmer. Jackie worked for,
Jackie. Yeah.
You know Jackie? Jackie worked for the airline, and her husband was an airline pilot. He's retired now. And I recruited Jackie. They were very skeptical, and they got involved in my business. And she was my 16th distributor in my between my first and my second year. She signed up a woman in New Mexico, and that woman in New Mexico won. This was like one person. She started putting people in, and over the next 3 years, her group grew to 12,000 distributors and over 40,000 customers.
Whoa.
And I made my first million. That was from one, the 15th, the 16th. Wow. And then over those 13 years, those 144 months, I signed up 129 people, which is less than one a month. And 5 of them led me to 85,000 distributors and 250,000 customers. And I made millions and millions of dollars with that company. 5 out of the 129. So that means 124 people either quit or became customers. And that was the model that and then when that company, we were born and built during the age of the analog switching network, analog, like mechanical switches. Mm-hmm. And then everything went digital. It's like the team of people that put together a mechanical car and the team of people that put together a computerized car are different people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our company, when digital was invented, within 6 months, we were out of business because we had hundreds of millions of dollars in mechanical switches that became obsolete overnight.
Wow. And there wasn't a time to transfer a plan.
No, no. I mean, how do you teach people that make record players how to make a CD? Wow. You know what I mean?
It's complete disruption.
Right. So overnight, everything just ended.
Yeah. So I went from making 80 grand a month to zero overnight. And I had built, I had equity in real estate at that point. I had savings.
Yeah, because there's no equity in the business. It's not like you can sell your book, right? Like you have it and it just goes on forever. And so you got to find other investment vehicles in case something like this happens. You did the right thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, but I still was bleeding by by $23,000 a month.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I had to fix. So I did a little bit of downsizing. I, grabbed some equity from some real estate that I had, and I was paying my bills, but I wasn't going to be able to do that forever. Yeah. So I at that point, and then also I made I learned some big lessons about investing and what to do when you start making money. I'll share those.
Investing in businesses, friends, and things like that.
I'll talk to you about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when that happened, though, about 4 months of, bleeding by 23,000 a month, I tripped over send-out cards, which now is called Promptings powered by send-out cards. And that was 21 years ago. And I joined the company just as a customer, just to use it. And I started sending cards out with the company. It's a way that you can send physical printed cards in the mail from your phone or your computer. Back then it was just computer. And after about 5 weeks of sending cards, I thought to myself, there are a lot of people out there that could use this service, like millions. And so I decided to start building it. This was 21 years ago. I just decided to start building it as a business.
It's a great service. We use it in the payroll business.
I had a couple of fraternity brothers at Arizona State that were involved back in 2008-ish, 7-ish. Yeah.
That was when we were in our 4th year. So we're now 21, 22 years old. So we've become the largest customer of the U.S. Post Office. We've sent out 200 million cards. Our customer base has sent out 200 million cards and created some unbelievable stories. So this has been my business this is what I do now for the past 21 years. And I don't have to do it anymore because I made some better decisions with my money. But I enjoy it. I love it. I don't know what else I would be doing. I'm enjoying what I do, and I would be bored out of my mind if I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible. So, all right. So give us one story. What was one bad investment that you made?
Well, here's what happens. People that start making money for the first time, big money, like really, like when I say big money, it doesn't even have to be it doesn't have to be Elon Musk money, not that kind of money. I'm talking, or Jeff Bezos money. It could be, you're used to making $3,000 a month and now you're making 15 grand a month, right?
Yeah.
When you start making money, you think you're smart and you're not. And you think you're Mr. or Mrs. Shark Tank. And everybody, when people see you upgrade your car to a convertible BMW or whatever, or you buy a newer, bigger home or whatever, you're taking these exotic trips, they think you got a lot of money. So they come to you with all their business ideas. And it becomes a regular thing, like a lot of people, where every month you're getting 2, 3, 4, 5 business opportunities that come your way where people want $10,000 up to $1 million. And they're starting a business and you're going to have a great position in the company as an investor and you're going to make millions and blah, blah, blah. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with your money. This happens to entertainers. It happens to professional athletes. It happens to entrepreneurs, all of them. And so you start throwing your money in all these different directions. I invested in a movie. I invested in a nightclub. I invested in a restaurant. I invested in real estate partnerships. I invested in technology companies. And about half my income, the millions that I made, I lost all of it. And 100%. Like these companies come and go. And they are always in the form of a startup, and startups, 99% of startups never make it. In fact, I learned this since then on Shark Tank. Do you know that 95% of the companies that they invest in on Shark Tank fold?
Don't
they go out of business. Wow. There was a company that started.
I didn't know it was that high.
Robert invested in a company that was very similar to Send Out Cards. He invested $350,000 and the company was out of business 6 months later. But that's a very common scenario. So I found myself in a situation where, I'd been with my company for 13 years. I'd made lots of money and I had very little to show for it. But then I remembered, and this is why, by the way, many professional athletes go broke. They have their 5 or 6 year run. They're now in their early 30s or mid 30s. They're retiring from football or whatever. And then they end up working security at a school, and that's common. And in the entertainment business as well, there's like celebrity after celebrity after celebrity that are actors that get into their 50s and 60s that have nothing because their managers told them to invest all this money into all these different businesses that go away.
Well, those same numbers apply to venture capital, and that's why venture capital requires so much capital. So you can hold out for the home run and pick your ponies for those same metrics.
When I look at my professional career as an entrepreneur, I can count on one hand. Like I've invested in probably 50 or 60 different projects. I can count on couple of fingers, 3 fingers, the ones that have hit it big, and that's kind of the way it works. That's how it kind of works. If you went and randomly invested in stocks, just randomly without looking at numbers or, being smart about it, you're going to lose most of your money.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. All right. So what was the most fun investment that did work out?
Okay. So I've got a couple that, well, one, my network marketing business has been a winner,
Yeah.
That was an investment in time and some money because, you're investing in your business as you're traveling and buying and selling, buying the product and sending it out and all that kind of stuff. Every company has products that you consume. And so it's not like traditional business, but there is an investment in that. And the other thing is, believe it or not, whole life insurance as an investment, not as a life insurance. Because I'm single, I don't really need a life insurance policy, but I have a few big life insurance policies, and I overfund them, and I've converted some of those into annuities that pay me monthly for the rest of my life. It's the same as
it's tax-free cash basis money. Yeah, I just got involved with it, and I just set up the policies for my kids.
Super smart, Stephen. You'll look back, 15 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say that was the best investment I ever made.
Yeah.
Now, it's not for everybody, so don't just go jump and buy some insurance because we're talking about this. You got to talk to the right person. You can get yourself involved in something that with life insurance that will mess you up later. So you really want to have a professional helping you, but then there are some drawbacks in the first few years. So you want to just be really smart about it. But I will tell you that I thank my financial planner all the time. Every month, she knows how appreciative I am because that investment that has been huge for me in so many ways. It's put me in a position in my life where if something were to happen to my company, I'm okay. I'm good for the rest of my life.
And I think people always think about, especially whole life, like it's okay. There's a death benefit. I don't see anything out of it. It's just when I die, I get money. It's like, no. When you have these policies set up, you're overfunding it, like you said. So it builds cash basis. It's investing in the market. So it's growing, compounding interest, tax free. And you can borrow against it. And if you never pay it back, it just lowers the death benefit at the end. So
smart. I'm glad to hear you're doing
life insurance.
Glad to hear you're doing that, Stephen. It's a good decision.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for encouraging and validating my decisions, because I talk about it with my friends too, because I have friends that don't even have life insurance on themselves, or they don't even have an estate plan set up and they've got kids. And I'm like, what are you guys thinking? Like, set this stuff up so there's no worry about probate and all sorts of things like that. But that's for another. And then I
have other little businesses that pay me, $300 to $500 a month, like my cigars. I'm a cigar smoker. I love cigars.
The Beach Money cigars.
Playa de Nero Beach Money cigars, and I can write up. Warren, our accountant, I can write off my cigar habit. It's a tax write off because I have my own cigar business, and I sell them online, and I sell 10 boxes a month, which is not a little, but it's not a lot. It's definitely not a lot, and it pays me.
Add that to the list and give those a try for sure.
People start businesses around the things they love personally, and then it's a tax strategy, and then other people will probably like it too. Okay, so you talked a lot about travel and what send out cards and other things that have given you the ability and really cool opportunities to experience the world, unlike many others.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this story, but I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes telling a Richard Branson story. I know this is your guy, and you've spent time on Necker Island, which I want to hear about your experience there. But you've read his book, Screw It, Let's Do It.
Yeah, love that book.
Okay, so I've read his book. I'm a Richard Branson fan. I love his quote. If someone offers you an opportunity and you're not sure you can do it, just say yes and figure it out later. It's like my most favorite quote.
Yeah.
But you mentioned how wealthy people get these opportunities to invest in businesses all the time. And he talks about that in his book, Screw It, Let's Do It. And how it's just every day, just pumping in opportunities. And he would be like, this is annoying. Like I'm not, but he would still look at them because you never know what strikes. Yep. And that's how Virgin Atlantic was born. It was a transatlantic airline opportunity. And in the time, he was just Virgin Records. It was in the media business. He had no airline, no experience or nothing. And he talked to his friend, Freddie Laker, who owned Laker Airlines, which was a small transatlantic airline that failed within the first 4 years because of the big guys, Pan Am and British Airways and all those guys, just crushed them. Long story short, Richard took Freddie Laker out to lunch and picked his brain on all the things that what went wrong and how can I make this better? Do you think it's a good opportunity? And Freddie Laker said there's nothing wrong with the business. You just need to don't do a no frills cheap airline. Build something that's comfort and fun and exciting for your passengers and not just A to B type of transaction. And so he built Virgin Atlantic based on, hey, we're going to make you feel super comfortable. You're going to have extra level service. And it ended up, and still around today, becoming a large airline. But he didn't grow it just by chance. Like he put in the work. He was at the airport, setting up his booth, selling tickets to get on his airline. And he said his biggest win was getting a deal with Boeing to lease a plane. One plane, the first plane was with Boeing. Can I lease this plane? And if this doesn't work out, will you take it back? And they agreed during the negotiation process. So it really was like, okay, I've got skin in the game, but worst case scenario, I'm not going to be out too much other than whatever I invest in it. But we all know Richard Branson's story and his success. But to go from records to transatlantic airlines to now Virgin Galactic, and he's doing all this travel. And you spent time on Necker Island. What was that experience like with Richard Branson?
So Richard, first of all, most of the businesses that he started, including the multi-billion-dollar businesses, have gone out of business. But he's had enough wins over the years, and he understands how to place the stock. He plays the stocks, and he ends up with billions. He knows what he's doing. But no, I actually years ago I had a dream to go to space, and Richard started the Virgin Galactic Civilian Space Program. And, I threw my life insurance, by the way, Stephen. I borrowed $250,000 from my life insurance and sent it to Richard to get a slot to go to space. This was years ago, 8 years ago now. And I ended up being involved in the Virgin Galactic program for 6 years. Because of that, I had access to Richard. So I was able to spend time many days. Well, I was on his island for 10 days with him. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were out on his boat. I played chess with him. But then I also had access to him in other ways. Like I got invited to the space launch where he went to space. And that was by lottery. There were 100 media companies there and only 60 people. And I was one of the 60 people. And so I got to be up close and personal with Richard there. We got to know each other. It was, in fact, very surreal being on his island.
I bet.
And I got there. I still had my luggage, and I was at the bar. I wasn't drinking, but I went to the bar because that's where the people were. There were a few people around the bar. And then I turn around, I look over my shoulder, and Richard is standing right next to me. At first time meeting him, and he shakes my hand. He goes, "I'm Richard." I go, "I know, I'm Jordan." And and we ended up, I've spent many hours with him, not just on Necker Island, but however, I'll just share this with you. You may not know this. I pulled out of the program. Richard pulled out of the program.
Really?
And their stock went from $60 a share down to $2.50 a share.
Yeah, it dropped.
And they're not, my number was 400 and some to go up to space. And it had been 6 years and I still wasn't anywhere near. They were like moving so slowly and nothing was happening. And so I was able to get 90% of my investment back. So I got 225,000 back. And for $25,000, I had access to Richard Branson. I got to know him.
Great investment.
Yeah,
that's cheap, right?
Yeah. No kidding. Well, if you guys wanted to hire Richard for an hour just to talk on Zoom, you could do that. It's going to cost you $200,000.
That's wild.
If you want an hour of his time on Zoom, for $25,000, I got to spend many hours with him.
Yeah,
unbelievable return. Yeah.
Unbelievable return. Yeah, and so. So and sometimes it's worth it. It depends on what you're doing and what you're looking for and what you're up to. But sometimes it's worth it to pay for access. Like I wanted to meet Steven Tyler when I was in my teens. I was listening to Aerosmith, and that was music that really inspired me as a teenager. I loved Aerosmith and Steven Tyler, and it's unbelievable that he's still performing today and he still draws crowds of tens of thousands of people. But I wanted to meet him. And there was no way for me to meet him other than to buy access. So I paid $1,000, and twice I did this, to be able to go backstage and shake his hand and tell him how much I appreciate his music and thank him and get a picture. So
that's awesome.
And that because of the card program.
Did you send him a card?
I sent him so I had my book I had Beach Money with me, and my plan was to get it signed by him, get my Beach Money book signed by him. I was only allowed to bring one thing in. So I brought my Beach Money book in and a pen. I brought in a pen, a Sharpie. And he said he wanted to keep the book, which means I wasn't going to be able to get my signature on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I said, I'll tell you what, I talked to his manager who was standing right there. I said, if I mail you a book, will you get it to him? And she said yes, and he said yes. I will get it if you send it to her. Oh, so I got the signed book. I ended up creating a shadow box, and it hangs on my wall in here, right in the other room. It hangs on my wall with his signature on the book, and I also have a signed guitar by him. And then I mailed him a book. I don't know if you ever got it. I never heard back, but he wrote on the book, "Beach Money, show me how." And I'm like,
oh, that's great.
Steven Tyler has Beach Money already. He doesn't need my Beach Money. Yeah.
It's funny those guys still record and travel all over the world.
Well, he retired. He officially retired about a year ago, but I heard I think it's true. I saw it on social media that he may be doing another tour. So,
well, the church that we meet at, I was talking with the guy that runs the church there for our group, and Alice Cooper and his wife go to that church, right?
Right.
He was telling us that Alice Cooper does 200 events in the last 2 years. He's still traveling all over the place.
That's incredible.
Concerts all over the world. Like these guys, this is their life and they love it. Yeah. And they're going twice a week, putting out concerts, and they're having raving fans constantly. Yeah. Like it never dies for them.
Steven Tyler, he pushes and he's old, he's up there, but he pushes and he has accidents. And so every, when he's touring, it's like every 6 months he's fallen off the stage or knocking something over or whatever. But because he's up there, he's still hardcore. You know, he still goes up there and just
he's not slowing down.
No.
After looking through some of your stuff and after this, 40 minutes into this conversation, I know you talk about presence a lot, gratitude and presence.
Yeah.
And it is loud and clear right now that you're a very present person in the moment and really taking it all in. Is that accumulation of just the nature of the network marketing business, having to replicate and passing on that information that's made that so grounded in you, or how would you say that really solidified in your core values?
All of it. I would say that a lot of it comes with just being aware. Being present means being aware, and sometimes you'll realize, like, there'll be times where I'll be like doing something and I'm like, I'm completely not present. I'm thinking about what's going to happen in the future. I'm afraid of something. I'm
all the time,
and you catch yourself and then you bring yourself back down to earth. I do one of the things that I've noticed about successful entrepreneurs, and I noticed this with Richard immediately, when he has a conversation with you, he is completely 100% present. I've noticed this in a number of very successful, wealthy people that they're very present. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are very, very present with people.
Do you think that's after their success? Like they've gotten, like they've
I think
built it's always been?
It's a cause of their success. Yeah.
Sure.
And the ones that don't do that, they don't do well.
Yeah.
So, it's because you need to touch people at a personal level in order to build a team. And every successful endeavor involves at some level building a team. And so it's being able to listen, ask questions. Also training programs I've been through, the power of asking questions and really listening to the answer without trying to think about what you're going to say next, just absorbing whatever it is that comes from them and then asking more questions and just learning from people. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in peace. There's a lot of power in being quiet and listening. Yeah.
It's true. I've sat in, I'm not great at my mind's a bit chaotic. I'm always coming up with different ideas and thinking, okay, what's the next move for, so you're sitting in a room sometimes. And I remember I was sitting in a room and there was some pretty heavy hitters in that room. And I was quiet. I was the quietest one in the room. And one of the guys spoke up. He's like, Steven, you scare me a bit because you haven't said anything. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not even thinking about anything. I'm just, out to lunch right now. But it's funny how that perception does give that almost authority or like, what, I wonder what he's thinking. Like, why hasn't he brought up anything yet? Or what, and then you have these conversations. It's hard to sit back and be present, just take it all in and then assess the situation, be aware, and then take, execute and take action the way it's supposed to be.
And people tend to gravitate towards people that are sincerely, authentically interested in them.
Yeah.
Right.
Be interested, not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And the quickest way to get somebody to not trust you is to just talk about yourself.
Yes.
And I know here I am talking about myself, but Steven.
Yeah, but that's the purpose of this episode. Yeah. We've asked you that. Yeah. But that's hard. I think that's something that, would you agree that's something typically learned? I don't know how many people, like when you're born, like it's all about you, right? Like it's your birthday and it's you're very, it's just human nature. And then I think you have to develop that skill, right? You have to develop
I think to some extent, most people do. I think most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, you see that success. You're like, okay, I even if you have a story that's relative or you can relate to someone, it's almost like just hold back, ask another question instead of trying to fit in your story. And it's hard to do. It's not an easy thing, but you're right. I believe that too. Most successful people probably have that ability and do it at a high level.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you've spoken on stages all over the world as well. Obviously you're going to Bulgaria here soon. There is one really cool thing, Phil. I don't know if you found this in your research, but Jordan Adler once sold a $100 bill auctioned off for $3.2 million. Did you see that?
If you go on,
I did not see this.
If you go on Google, you have to go to Google. You can't find it if you go to Facebook. But if you go on Google and you type in $100 bill auction, Jordan Adler and Eric Worre, Worre, $100 bill auction, Jordan Adler, Eric Worre, you'll see a Facebook, you'll see the video of the actual event. It's edited down a little bit because it was I think it's edited down to 3.5 minutes, and it was actually an 8-minute auction. So here's what happened. So I had this idea that was part of a training that I was going to do, that I could auction off a $100 bill for $1,000. And I went to my assistant at the time and I said, Megan, I'm going to auction a $100 bill off for $1,000 on my Monday night conference call. This was before Zoom. And she goes, that's kind of a stupid idea. No one would ever pay more than $100 for a $100 bill. And I said, well, I have some ideas. So we get on the Monday night call. And I start the auction at $50. I said, text Megan if you'll buy this $100 bill for $50. And then I said, what about $75? Who will give me $75 for this $100 bill? And people are texting, and then it hits 100 and people are still texting. I'll take it for 100. And then when I got to like 150, they stopped. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll put my signature on it because I'm Jordan Adler. And I started the group. I found out what my signature was worth. They pay $250 for a $100 bill with my signature on it. I said, tell you what, I'm going to have our founder sign it. And then it went up a little more, went to 500. And then I said, I'm going to have our top leader sign it. And then it went up to, more. And so then I said, I'm going to put it in a really nice frame. You can hang it over your desk and it'll motivate you. It'll inspire you. And maybe it's even a lucky $100 bill. Anyway, a woman from Pittsburgh, after 8 minutes, offered me $1,000 for the $100 bill. And then I talked about it afterwards. Like, why would somebody pay $1,000 for a $100 bill? Well, the reason is because I was adding value. So words I was using, right? People want it. And then there's other things going on as well. There's things like some people just want to win, Yep. So after that event, about 2 years later, I was at a mastermind in Dallas, and there were 1,500 people in the crowd. And I said, I thought to myself, I'm going to do that same exercise with 1,500 people. So I did it, and I got $7,500 for the $100 bill in front of a group of 1,500 people. Well, then years later, probably 5 years later, I'm speaking in a room of 8,000 entrepreneurs in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And I tell Eric and Marina backstage, I said, I'm going to do this, and I think I can get $25,000 for this $100 bill. So I get up on stage, and I do exactly the same thing that I did on the conference call, exactly the same. But I had people stand up if they were willing to give me $50, $75, $100, $125, $150, $200, $500, $1,000, $1,500, $5,000. And then because there were so many people, I couldn't see everybody. So when I got to about, I think it was $8,500, I had people really quick run to the front. And I had a group of like 15 people up at the front, and it kept going up. And I stopped the auction. I mean, it literally was an 8-minute auction. I stopped the auction 2 times. And I said to the group, I said, look, you guys understand this is a real auction. You have this money in your bank account. Excuse me. You're willing to give me the money for this $100 bill. This is not a fake auction. This is a real auction. You're willing to give me the money. $3.2 million.
That's insane.
There was a guy from not Cupertino, somewhere up there. I can't remember now, but I think it was Cupertino, California, that was one of the co-founders in Oracle. And he had been bought out. He was in the crowd. He was up high with his fiance. Yeah. He was in the crowd, and he came up front. He was holding his Black American Express credit card up and his wallet. And he got in a bidding war with this guy from Canada, and they went back and forth, and it drove it up to 3.2. Brought him up on the stage and said, David, what do you do? And he told me, and I said, congratulations. And then at that point, I told him that the money would be donated to the Starkey Hearing Foundation to help tens of thousands of kids around the world get hearing aids. So he got to travel from that event.
That is so cool.
It was the largest donation in the 35-year history of the Starkey Hearing Foundation by far. And he got to travel all over the world in private jets with Ashton Kutcher, Katy Perry, Elton John, Evander Holyfield, and a bunch of other celebrities, because they were part of these auctions that raised money to fit these kids with hearing aids in these different countries.
Wow, what an incredible story.
It was wild.
That's wild. Well, and speaking of Oracle, you see Larry Ellison just this week is now the richest man in the world. Oracle blew up with
their
AI.
AI.
I didn't hear that.
AI projections.
So Richard Brooke, who's a very close friend of mine, lives on the island of Lanai, and lives next door to Larry Ellison. He knows him very well. Yeah.
Crazy. Well,
Yeah, Larry owns Lanai, by the way.
Does he?
Yeah, he owns the island.
I've enjoyed this conversation so much, Phil. I don't know if you have any other questions, but like we could go another 2 hours for sure.
We could.
This was not enough time, but we didn't get through even a tenth.
So many stories to tell.
So many, and I think it's 100% certain that we're going to have you back on.
Thank you.
Just to continue the conversation, but I did want to ask one final question, and this is for our listeners. And how does Jordan Adler define success?
I think it's very obvious to, I think, most people that success is really something that it's personal. It's personal, meaning that it's different for everyone. For some people, success is living comfortably with a family that includes kids and then eventually grandkids, and leaving a legacy in that way. For some people, that's success. For some people, they need to make $50 million to be successful. And the family doesn't even matter. It's really different for everybody. So I think it's like wherever you find peace, whatever it is you are striving for in life that'll give you happiness. I think for most people, they can find happiness if they get really aware. They can find happiness in being present and then enjoying the journey and being grateful and appreciative. I think if somebody lives a life of gratitude, they're going to be successful. They're going to feel successful. And that doesn't even mean having a lot of money. For some people want that life, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
perspective.
Nothing wrong with building your dream life. Nothing wrong with taking your family and friends along with you. And so it's just really whatever you define it to be. If you're happy and peaceful, then you're successful wherever you are.
Great answer.
We're going to link to your information, social in the show notes. So
best to be just connect with me on Instagram at Beach Money Jordan, at Beach Money Jordan. That's the easiest.
Buy some cigars. I know I'm going to
beachmoneyscigars.com, beachmoneyscigars.com. And my books are on Amazon.
Thank you so much, Jordan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great
Can't wait to continue the conversation at a future date.
I appreciate you having me on. It's really been great.
Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate you, brother.